Lucky Boys Podcast.
Studios love the script. You read it, it's an easy read, simple story. But then they just kept pushing back about the lead cast. And then, that's when, we started getting these offers where it's just like, hey, we'll give you X amount of money, but swap out the lead character into a white character. And therefore we're going to make more money, right? Or, swap out all three.
What? Swap out all three?
Swap out all three.
We changes the whole dynamic of the story.
Exactly. And so for us, it's just like, by then we've been probably trying to pitch for, a good 5 years then. And then we're just like, man, fuck that. And we easily just walked away from all of those offers. We're just like, we'd rather put in the time, get the right people to fund this, and then tell our own story. And so that's ultimately what we did. And that's why it became a 10-year journey, and we ended up having the power behind the camera because we raised our own money and we casted exactly the people that we wanted, and the rest is history. So
I want to go back to what you just said. You said you easily walked away. How do you easily walk away? I mean, a lot of filmmakers.
It's more of a moonwalk away. We still held our eyes on it.
And then stutter. And then
they didn't turn their back on it. They didn't turn their back on it.
I was like, that's a lot of money. Like, even myself, I would think about it. I mean, that's a lot of money. I'm like, man, you could bring my project. You could help bring my project to life. However, with a few caveats, I would have sat down and thought about it. I would be lying to myself if I said, for me personally, that I could easily walk away, unless it was like a clear-cut film with Asian characters, and it would be a complete betrayal or selling out if it wasn't. But in this case, the film itself, it looked like it could be. I mean, I've seen movies before, kung fu movies or karate movies with white people. Like what was the one?
Double Dragon.
There was one where there was three kids. I actually liked this film when I was a kid. Three Ninjas.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, that's not unheard of. But to walk away from that was that at some point were you regretting that decision? Like, damn, maybe we should have taken that money because we would have all these toys and options to play with by sacrificing some of the control.
Bao can speak upon this about the script in terms of the script and the story that he worked on, but for us, I think as a team, luckily we're pretty practical people. We would think logically about trying to solve problems and stuff like that. And so for us, we're not a multi-million, like $15-20 million movie. Like, we know that, and when you think about, even if we were offered that much, where's that money actually going? Right. We want to make sure that most of the money goes to the screen, like to make sure that it actually looks like a $20-30 million movie versus thinking of, well, I'm gonna slip this into my pocket, and then so our main goal was always to tell the right story and make the best movie possible. And so for us, it made more sense because if you already bend over to allow a studio to tell you, hey, bring in these white guys, you're like, oh yes sir, bring them in.
Ooh, yes master.
What other things are they going to ask for after that, right?
Yeah.
And then they slip you the check, and then you're just like, well, it's a slippery slope. You start,
they own you at that point.
Yeah.
It's their investment. So, and that's understandable. I think from an investment, if I'm an investor, I'm going to want to put in my 2 cents, even though if I have no specialty in this field, I may want to protect my investment and say, do what they did since they got money.
Yeah.
And instead of trusting some random guys, what they'd be like, I never heard of. I want you to put this famous person. Now, during the negotiation with the studio, did they throw any famous names at you to try to sweeten the pot?
So we had a Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis?
Bruce Willis.
Stop
Bruce
it.
Willis, yeah. Like, Bruce Willis was one.
To play who? The Sifu?
Seafood
It
Carter?
wasn't necessarily specific.
No way he would be Seafood Carter.
Well, because they were naming like a lot of like older, like middle-aged to upper, like older white actors, and so
also of a certain cachet, right?
Yeah, so it was just more about, they weren't thinking in terms of story. That's the thing, is that when they throw these actors' names out, like they're not thinking in terms of like what we wrote. It was just more of, well, how do we attract more people to come to the, and get our money back. Right. It's always about, the return,
Right.
And so that's why, God, what were the other names?
I mean, that was the trip, because it was like, they threw out a lot of names, but you had Sifu Carter, a white character in the movie, but they wanted like all the marbles. They wanted like the leads to be, so it's like, they didn't understand. Like I think to Alan's point, like I question when I hear that, it's like, do you even read the script? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to give us a check, like, are you even doing it for like the right reasons, So it was an easy no, honestly, for me. And then it was obvious. I think we knew we were going to have this conversation, because honestly, we're not unusual. I think anyone who is POC has spent some time in Hollywood or LA and has pitched projects, there's a very common studio note. So it's nothing that's unusual. It's just that now we're able, thankfully, have a platform to talk about it and be able to speak some truth to it. But it's a constant battle. It's like the default catch-22, if that makes sense. But it's like, that's how they know, like, they can co-opt you with a production deal, essentially.
Now, do you think there will be more filmmakers coming up, kind of using you or seeing you guys as inspiration, going, you know what, these guys can do that and still maintain control of the art? I think I can do it too. Do you think the trend is starting to turn a little bit?
I mean, I certainly hope so. I mean, that's pretty much like the reason why we openly talk about this journey, right? Aside from just purely promoting the film, which you guys should watch. But
absolutely. By the way, it got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Certified fresh.
Very.
Yeah. And it's definitely a reason why we talk about this, is because, like amongst filmmakers, I mean, this is a common thing, but for others out there, and especially the timing of the pandemic, all of the rise of Asian hate and stuff like that. Like, it's, this is a reminder that, all of this stuff is not new. It's sort of been quiet, it's just kind of like behind the scenes type stuff. And then, so not a lot of people actually know anyone who actually went through it. Right. So when we come out and talk about it, we hope that we can save other POC filmmakers, the heartache, the headache of, realizing that this is how things are done at, the studio level, and that there are other options of, getting your own funding and kind of having that control. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, there's power in that visibility. I know that's the other buzzword, just being visible, and to be that, if we could be that example that people would point to, then we'd consider ourselves, blessed and fortunate that we could be that. But exactly that, like most of these deals, that if we were to take these deals, they just happen in back doors. Like, you wouldn't know those compromises that are made to kind of get this movie. You would never know how they're shortchanged to get those productions up. But for us to kind of like have this out there for people to see and point to, I think that if people can run with it, then by all means run with it.